I'm saying, don't make a rush decision. Marriage is not a joke. You need to make sure that you're absolutely sure about what you're doing.
If this were to end, God forbid, and we go our separate ways, I want to be a better Trishawnda. I don't want to be a broken Trishawnda.
With time and wisdom, you start to behave differently.
The other thing too is surround yourself with people who are in relationships.
If she's a freak in the streets, you cannot turn her into a wife.
How is that his responsibility to handle all of the baggage that I'm bringing because the first man who was supposed to be there, support me, love me, and take care of me failed?
Welcome to another episode of Keeping It Real, where we have real conversations with extraordinary people in multi-million-dollar homes. Today's topic is going to be special. We are rolling out our first episode of Keeping It Real, the Pillow Talk edition, and we're going to be talking about relationships. So you stay tuned. This week's episode is going to be about the heart of commitment. A lot of times we hear people talking about, hey, I'm looking to get married. I'm in the marriage, dating to marriage stage. Or I'm looking for ways to ignite our marriage. They're just new into the game. So we're going to have a lot of questions from what I feel a seasoned couple that everyone knows, likes, and loves in the Central PA area. So I had to have them on our podcast today to kick off our Pillow Talk edition, Trishawnda Cabbagestalk and Julius Cabbagestalk. Are y'all ready?
We ready?
Okay, so I'm just going to preface, unlike any other episode, because of my friend over here, Julius, said he needed some questions. We did share some questions with them, but guess what? Do you know they didn't even read them? They didn't even read them. So
No, I
what
did
was the
read
point?
I read your question.
Oh, you read the questions? Oh, so
Yes.
you read it? You didn't read them.
I did not.
This is going to be good.
Looked like it was about 30 questions.
So I wanted it to be like the dating game. You know, you ask the questions and you didn't know what the questions were, and then you just answer them. So y'all be like, wait a second. No, I don't agree with that. But that's okay. We're going to make this work.
All right.
We're going to make it work. Okay, so as I stated in the intro, there's a lot of people that we're running into that are in their 30s or maybe even younger that in the stage of dating to marry, right? So we know that we're seeing things are different from when we were actually in the dating game. And so I wanted to have a conversation. So what are some of the key qualities that you think or believe are essential for a successful marriage? We're going to start with the marriage partner. We're going to go into what they should be looking for in a marriage partner as well. Okay. So what are some key essentials that are important for a successful marriage?
I would say, well, for each person, I think it's going to be different.
Mm-hmm.
For me, if I'm looking for a partner at this stage in life, you know, my keys to success is probably going to be different than someone in their 30s. But I think overall, no matter what age you are, you should be looking for someone that can be your friend and not just your partner. Because if you and that person don't have anything in common, there's no way you and that person are going to get along. You have to have like a television show or something in common that the two of you can do together, that you enjoy doing together, and, you know, having fun. You know, it's about having fun. You shouldn't really have to work at loving your wife or work at loving your husband, or I can grow to love him or love her. It should be a natural thing. And if it's not natural and you find yourself forcing it, then you need to hit the road.
Mm-hmm. So almost like, don't be trying to change someone. Mm-hmm. They should be the person that you're looking to be to complement each other from the start. Like if you have to work for it, go ahead, Trish.
I was just going to say, I think naturally people evolve, right? So when you're talking, me meeting him, I was 15, he was 17. He has evolved over the years. So I think when we think about being in a relationship, you have to say to yourself, this person is going to evolve. A lot of times I think people throw in the towel saying, oh, this person has changed. It's an evolution because they're getting older and they're kind of just moving forward. So some of the things that he may have enjoyed or may have how he responded when he was 18, 19, 20 is totally different from his response now. So I think we have to remember that people evolve. But when we in my opinion, when we talk about qualities, we're talking about one, putting God first. Whatever the religion is, that needs to be at the top. Because then from there we go into, wholeheartedly believe the friendship is key.
Yeah.
I always say to him, God forbid we were to ever get a divorce, I am going to miss my friend, because my friendship to him means so much to me. Besides him just being my husband, he is my friend. And I also believe communication is key. I think a lot of times we think people know what we want when they really don't. So if you are expecting flowers once a week, you need to say, I'm looking for flowers once a week.
Right.
You can't just assume that your partner is automatically going to know that's what you want.
So I couldn't help but, Julius, you laughed when she said about communication is key. You can't expect them to think what people want. Like, why did that make you chuckle?
I laugh because one of the things that she doesn't do it as much anymore, but I told her she has these conversations that take place with me, but I wasn't present for them. She provided my answers. She provided my thoughts.
I've gotten better.
She provided my emotions. She filled in all the blanks for me. And because I wasn't there to know what my part was in this, she gets upset. And I'm like, so basically in a nutshell, you had a conversation with me that I wasn't present for. You filled in all of my answers for me. And now I'm not quite filling in the answers correctly on my Scantron here now, and the machine is going haywire. You're getting upset. So that's something she used to do a lot. She doesn't do it anymore. And as she said, with time and wisdom, you start to behave differently. Before, I would be like, this is not fit. Now I just laugh about it.
Yeah.
Because I just find it hilarious. Like, okay, she had another story with me without me.
Right.
It's okay. Let me go call Frazier, talk to the therapist, because we got to get her some help on this.
So that's so huge, because a lot of people in this day and age, when you hear that ends a marriage because of lack of communication, or not wanting to work at improving on your communication, or not working to fill in those gaps of expectation, like I like to see. Because there's one thing you're expecting, another thing your spouse is expecting, and then there's reality, right? So filling that gap is huge, and communication is key. So to hear you say that, a lot of people don't make it past 5 years because of communication, or they like, oh, they're not hearing me, kind of thing.
Right.
So like, how did that actually impact, like, was that in the beginning stages? Like, how did that impact your marriage? Like, did you find yourself like, you know what, forget it, I want to throw in the towel and just like, I'm over, I'm done?
I know for me, it was a matter of really being purposeful about being a statistic breaker. So statistically, people just throw in the towel. It's easy to walk away. It's easy to say, I give up. It's easy to say, that's so easy. And I think a lot of people do that, especially nowadays. You order something from Amazon, you don't like it, you just ship it right back. Like, it's very easy to just quickly keep turning over. And I didn't want to be a turnover. When I looked at my family dynamic, I didn't have a whole lot of people in my family that I could look to and say, they've had a successful marriage. My thing was, I'm going to do the best that I can to make this work, so that if God forbid I have to say I'm leaving, I know I gave it all I had. I know I tried. I didn't just throw the towel in. I worked on it. I committed to it. So for me, it was really about making those changes necessary to grow and be better, not only for him, but for me. Because if this were to end, God forbid, and we go our separate ways, I want to be a better Trishawnda. I don't want to be a broken Trishawnda.
Right. So with that, do you think it's important to figure out who you are first before marriage? When you say that you want to be, you don't want to be the broken Trishawnda. And then Julius, you can chime in too. Like, when you were dating, like, how important was it for you to figure out who you were first before you decide, okay, yep, I want to make a full lifetime commitment with them?
For me, it was, I don't think I really ever had a point in life where I said, I need to figure out who I am. I think for me, I've just been genuinely the person that I am. Now, I think over time, I've evolved because of exposure to certain people, certain atmospheres, environments, and so forth that just helped shape me as a person. One of the craziest things was for me with a marriage and making a marriage work was I have an aunt and uncle who I spent a lot of time at their house as a kid, and very close to them, and they would fuss all the time.
Yeah.
And my mindset was, well, my aunt and uncle fussed all the time, and they've been together for like 50 years. Then hey, it's okay. Like, but there's a difference between fussing about why did you eat my chips? You know I wanted those chips,
Right.
and fussing about really like you trying to hurt the other person's trying to hurt you. Like there's different levels of fussing, you know. Like her and the kids, they'll get mad at me and be like, you drunk up all the juice.
Right.
You drink up all the juice in this house.
Right.
And I stop and I look and I'm like, these people act like I ain't got a job. Like I don't contribute to this juice.
Right.
Like, and the two people who complaining the most about this juice didn't even put in on the juice. You know, it's like, so, you know, and then those are the petty ones. But then it's a difference with arguing because you think your wife is creeping around with somebody, you know. And one of the things that I heard one time that I still carry with me, and I actually used it the other day, was actually it was your grandfather, Erica.
Okay.
He said, if a man try to hit on my wife, I don't get upset. I say to myself, he got good taste. You know, he said, no need to get upset.
This is about to go laugh. Go real fast.
This comes with maturity now.
Yes.
We went to go pick up my youngest daughter from school.
Uh-huh.
I knew where we were going, but she felt like we didn't know where we were going.
Okay.
So she needed to go ask one of the maintenance workers that was riding around on his lawnmower or something. And she went and asked him, and then he trying to hit on her.
Oh.
I kept walking because I found this hilarious. I kept walking because, you know, I thought back to like your grandfather said, hey, he got good taste,
Right.
you know. And I'm saying to myself, if you're fool enough to go with him, then feel free, you know.
gosh.
But you know, I found it hilarious. So I started messing with her the entire day, telling her, you know, what's wrong? You ain't want to go with extra big love? You know?
Extra big love.
So I was messing, but those are things where maybe the 18-year-old in me would have gotten upset.
So
would have
maturity.
handled it different. Whereas the mature person of me now says, kind of find it comical. You know,
Yeah.
you laugh about it. Now you're texting people joking about it because it's like you're going to get upset every time somebody finds your spouse attractive. You know, if nobody else found your spouse attractive, you may want to question why you with your spouse.
That's fair. I get that.
Like, man, did I really pick that bad of a dad?
Right.
You know, but it goes back to exposure that I heard an older gentleman preaching, and one day he mentioned it, and it made me think about it, and it stuck with me. So that helped me when I was faced with that situation. I handle it different because I looked at it from a more mature perspective.
Confidence.
Yeah.
You have confidence in yourself and knowing that, yep, she does look good. I'm glad you looked at her. And I know she's staying.
That's it. You know, and she need me for the ride home. She ain't drive her car.
She needs me for the ride home. It's crazy. It's absolutely. So how did you know that you found the right one?
Couple things were important for me. One, she knew how to cook.
What? That was
Big guy,
well, you know
Erica.
what? I retract that statement. I'm sorry. For those of you that it's important for your significant other to cook, I apologize. Because that is a criteria for some people. So I
If
apologize.
you can't cook, we're not getting married.
Okay.
There is no way this marriage is working.
And you can burn. You can.
So
burn.
she could cook. So I was like, okay, that was a plus for her.
Yeah.
You know, she had decent grades, not as good as they could have been.
No, you did not.
I'm just
Now
joking.
you're being messy.
No, I'm just joking.
Now
I'm
he's
just
being
joking.
messy.
Now
No,
you're being messy.
She had
now
good.
he's
She
being
had
messy.
good grades.
Because who helped you write your paper?
She
Okay.
She had
Here we
good
go.
grades, and overall, she presented herself as a decent person.
Yeah.
You know, and I won't say it, but there's different types of females in life. You gotta determine what kind of female you want. And
See, now I'm curious, and I'm sure people that are watching are curious. So what are the different types of females?
well, you got your good wholesome female. You can take her to church.
Okay.
You know, you can take her around grandma.
I'm really scared on where this is going. I'm really nervous on where you're going.
You can take it with your grandma and them, outside.
You show them to the family.
Show them to the family.
Okay.
Then you have your turn up female who just always want to have a good time, but she ain't gonna be nothing in life.
Yeah.
Because all she want to do is have a good time. She want to go hang out at the bar. She want to go to the cookout. She want to go to the pool party. She want to take some trips. But you're never quite hearing her talk about studying or going to work. Mm-hmm. And then there's your freak.
Okay.
And my uncle told me, you don't really, you want a certain level of it, but not 100%, because that's going to be problematic.
I mean, this is the Pillow Talk version, so we're good.
The kids are gonna watch this.
I'm just saying, I'm not
yeah.
making this up. He has passed away, but this is what my Uncle James told me.
Yeah, okay.
He said, if she's a freak in the streets, you cannot turn her into a wife. He didn't use those exact words. He used the one beginning with an H.
Yeah.
But he said you cannot turn her into a wife.
Okay, so
because she
time
will
out.
never be.
Trish, I want to give you a question then, just to piggyback on that. So hearing what he just said, right, I'm curious to know, do you think that, what is your belief in that? So, because as women, we see it different, right? So when we're looking for a spouse, like what is it that you're looking for? And then I would like to hear your response to what he said as well.
Right. So if I'm being completely honest, for me, it was someone who was versatile. Mm-hmm. I enjoy rap music. I like trap music. Mm-hmm. I like going to concerts. Mm-hmm. So I need someone that's going to be able to go to those types of functions with me and have a good time.
Right.
I need someone that will go with me to church. Mm-hmm. I need someone who's going to be a really good family man. So that was extremely important to me, ensuring that I had someone that, God forbid it didn't work out, that he would still take care of his children. And that was the one thing that I admired so much about him, is because he was a family man, or he is a family man. And I knew in my heart, God forbid this situation not work, I know my girls are still good, because I know that he's going to take care of them, whether we're together or not. So that was a huge part of it too. And then someone who was business oriented. So for me, I had to look at myself and say, where do I lack? I know that I'm not the best person with managing finances. Mm-hmm. So I need someone who's strong in that area, because I feel like your partner should be someone that is going to enhance you and help you grow. Yeah. So that's one thing I appreciate about him, because right before we got married, he said, look, your finances are a mess. Let's be completely honest. Let's sit down. Let's see how we can get this on track. He didn't dog me. He didn't downplay me. He didn't use his knowledge of finances as a control mechanism. He used them to help me be better. Right. So that's what I say about coming out. If you have to come out of the relationship, come out better. Don't come out broken. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of that has to do with your partner. So those were some things that I was looking for in choosing someone to be with forever. Then in terms of what he said, I wholeheartedly agree. I think he's right, and I think there needs to be a little melt of the three, right? Yeah. I think there has to be a melt of all three, depending on what you're looking for, because some people are only looking for the wholesome girl. Some people are only looking for the turn up girl. Some people are only looking for the freak. So it depends on what you're looking for, but know what you're getting.
Right.
You know, if you can't say, I'm going to marry the turn up girl, and then once you get married, she wants to turn up all the time and you don't have meals cooked and she's not there for the kids, you knew what you were getting when you got there. So I think those are just some key elements.
So what about when it comes to having the heated discussions? Like, you found your mate, you get married, right? And then now you're in this, we talked about actually having great communication, or how the lack of communication could affect the marriage, and how to work through that. So then when it comes to the heated discussions, right? Let's talk about, you said finances, right? Finances seems to always trigger an argument. It doesn't matter how much money you make.
Right.
So when it comes to those sensitive conversations, how do you work through those without blowing a gasket? Because I think a lot of times I'm seeing with the younger generations, they'll be having, and this is why I'm asking the question, they'll have conversations, they're blowing a gasket. And, to the point where they have to leave because they just can't take it anymore. And they don't understand that it's only because there's something that you two don't agree on, and you found a difference of opinion, and you have to work through that. So, and I know in our marriage, we experienced that as well. So how did you work through that? Because I'm all about, dating to marry, right?
Right.
And you're going to have maybe blow those gasket moments. So you think that, well, they're not the one, and they possibly could be the one. So how do you, I'm asking multiple questions in here.
I got you.
Yeah. So how do you figure that out? Like, how do you work through that? Okay, maybe this person is the one. And then also when you're in the marriage, okay, what did I get myself into? How to overcome this? Am I staying or am I leaving?
Right. I think they mesh, right? Because if we're in one, I think the key thing about disagreements and arguments is knowing yourself. So for the longest time, if we would have a disagreement, my mouth would just be reckless, right? Now, this is stuff that I unfortunately learned in being in the environment that I'm in New York. When you're ready to argue, you're going for the jugular, and it's just, you're going to say whatever it is to win the argument. And I had to realize that's not a healthy way.
You're arguing the hurt.
Correct. And that's not healthy at all, because then once the argument is over or the disagreement is over and we're past it, those words that I said that were hurtful, they're going to stick.
Yeah.
They're going to stay.
They won't forget it.
I've learned to, one, walk away. If I feel like I'm at that level, I'll say to him, listen, I'm willing to discuss this particular thing, but not in this moment. Give me a little bit of time to calm down, and then we can revisit it. Because now I'm able to remove myself from the situation where I'm not going for the jugular. I'm able to think through what I actually want to communicate, and then I can come back and communicate that effectively.
Right. Why is this making me angry?
Correct. And that's the other piece of it. Why is this thing pushing me and making me so angry? And this goes back to knowing who you are. If it's something that's trauma causing for me, or something that ignites something from my past, that's not his fault. That's not his fault.
We need to put a pin in it.
Okay.
Right there.
Right.
Because did y'all hear what she just said? If there's something that happened in her past that triggered her, it's not her partner's fault.
Correct.
It's her fault.
Right. So I have to learn how to deal with that. So I'll give you a prime example. My dad and my mom separated when I was about 3. So I was raised by a single mother. And then my mom was in a marriage, and my stepdad was there for a while, and then he left.
Yeah.
And then she married again. So unfortunately, I'm in this cycle of watching men leave, just go, right? So in the back of my mind, unbeknownst to me, really, I didn't believe that men stuck around. When I looked at my cousins, I looked at friends or in my circle, no one really had a dad that stuck it through. So I started the relationship on a very bad footing because my mind always told me he's going to leave. So I consistently prepared myself for him to leave. So there were arguments, which when he was saying about me having those conversations in my head that I didn't have with him, I never communicated to him, hey, I feel like maybe you might leave. This is why I do X, Y, or Z. I never had that conversation with him. And because I didn't, it caused all of these unnecessary arguments until I had to stop and say, why am I always getting upset about these particular things? It's because I think he's going to leave. So I had to have a conversation with him. Hey, sometimes I feel like you just gonna pack up, I'm gonna come home, and you're not gonna be here.
Yeah.
So how do we resolve that? His mindset and the conversation that we had was, regardless, I'm here for the kids. Like, we have kids. We're always going to have a relationship because we have children.
Yeah.
So then I had to start unpacking that and go into therapy to unpack all of that stuff that I was holding on to. That was not his fault. So I was arguing with him about things that were not his fault at all. So then in going to therapy, I had to come back and apologize. Like, hey, I'm sorry that these types of things were constantly coming up, but here's why. And then he can better understand it. So I think it's a lot of knowing yourself and, again, being willing to work through it. He could have very easily said, she consistently thinks I'm leaving, or she's always arguing with me about this particular thing. I'm out of here. I'm not sticking around for this.
Because you can make something happen.
Correct.
If you keep saying, well, you're going to leave me anyways, you're going to leave me anyways, guess what?
He leaves.
He's going to leave.
Right. And I think, honestly, I was self-sabotaging without even realizing that I was self-sabotaging. And then I start thinking about it. How many women are actually doing that? We never... I know for real, in the Black community, we very rarely teach our daughters how to be wives. Very rarely. We don't teach them how to be wives. We tell them to be an independent Black woman. We've heard that 1,000 times. So it says, I don't need anybody. I can do this all on my own. Yes, I have my own job. Yes, I have my own finances, but I love my husband. And I have to pour into him as much as he's pouring into me. I'm not in a place where I want to be alone.
Right.
It's very rarely you come across somebody that actually wants to be alone, but it's been so embedded that we don't need. I do need him. I do. He's better in finances. My children need him. My daughters need their father. There's so many needs there that I had to learn how to take that independent woman mindset and bring it down a couple notches so that he also feels appreciated. Because if I can do it all on my own, how does he feel every day?
Yeah.
Like he's not needed or wanted in the marriage.
And that's important to you, to feel needed or wanted, Julius, do you think?
You want to feel appreciated.
Okay.
Because I think naturally your family needs you, but it's like you want to feel appreciated, like what you're doing is not just taken and nobody appreciates it. Nobody wants to be bending over backwards to provide for their family. But at the end of the day, everybody appears as if they don't appreciate the sacrifices you're making as the head of household. Because like I told her one time, I said, if we was to get evicted from our home, people wouldn't say they got evicted from their home. That man let them get evicted from their home. In the end, it falls on my back. So, part of her bad finances is like, you need to get this under control. We talked about it, but, because ultimately, like, if you don't, we're going to have to take some extreme actions here.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, your bad judgment falls back on me, So those are the things, just as a man. Because when I was raised in the mindset of a man is that you take care of your family. By any means possible, you need to take care of your family and provide for them. Like, your family should not want for basic necessities. Now, there's a difference if your kid wants the newest Air Jordans that come out every week and you're saying no, but your kid should not want for dinner tonight. He should not be, your son and your daughter and your wife and should not be wondering where dinner is going to come from. So, and that's how I was just raised as a man from my dad. It's like, you always take care of your family, no matter what. That is your first responsibility as a man. And, so when she's, talking that foolishness, it's like what is wrong with you?
Yeah.
What's wrong, And then, when you think about leaving her, you go to your barber and your barber like, boy, it's cheaper to keep her. What's wrong with you, Jay?
Not when you're thinking about leaving her. Oh my gosh.
But no, it's not worth it. And just for me at this point in life, it's like it ain't worth it.
Right.
And that's what I tell people all the time. Like, come on, man, is it really worth it? But that goes back to, you got to know what you're getting in the beginning.
Right.
You can't buy Nikes and expect them to be as comfortable as New Balance. New Balance is made for running. They're made for walking. Why do you think you see more old people in New Balance than Nike? They treat your feet right.
Right.
You gotta know. You gotta know what you're getting. And that's what it comes down to. And what I got then and what I have now are two different people. And what she got from me then is not the same person she got from me now. Whereas before, something that I might have entertained in a back and forth bickering discussion is now something like, I'm going downstairs and watch TV. I catch you later.
Yeah.
Like it ain't worth it. Because one thing I've learned now that I've gotten older and mature, it takes two people to argue.
It definitely does.
And if one of them are not willing to be a participant,
right,
and you continue on by yourself, you're going to look crazy. And people going to start to call you crazy, and they're going to put you in a jacket and drive you over there to PPI.
Jacket is so extreme.
So you may want to stop.
PPI is even crazy.
Because you're
this
arguing.
Podcast might not even make it.
You're arguing.
Yelled out so many brands.
You're arguing by yourself.
Right.
So I'm not participating in this one, sis. You take care. I'm gonna go get me a sandwich and watch TV.
Yeah. Okay. So then you married a strong woman, right? And Trish had shared with us that, being a strong woman, you have to not take yourself down a peg, because I think you still are your true authentic self, right? And yet and correct me if I'm wrong, you feel as though it's important that we are okay with being vulnerable with the people that we love.
Correct. Okay. And if you can't, then that's not your person.
Right.
If you can't, that's not your person.
Okay.
Julius he's a good yin to my yang, because he's not a very emotional dude. So I am extremely emotional. I cry at the drop of a hat.
Yeah.
So if something is bothering me and I call him and I'm crying, he's learned over the years how to say, okay, like, what are you crying about? Let's figure it out. Let's talk through it. What do you need?
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, because he's such an awesome provider, he's a fixer. So we had to have the conversation about, sometimes when I call you and I'm upset, I don't need you to fix it. Right. So now we have a conversation when I call, it's like, am I fixing this or am I listening?
I love that. Yeah. I have a fixer too.
Yeah. So now that helps him know what I need. Be like, girl, that's crazy. Why is she acting like that? Now he knows I just need the support.
Right.
If I need the fix, then he's like, hey, you should do this, or this type of thing. But again, that came from evolving, because initially I'm just like, I need you to react this way when I'm sad or when I'm going through something. I don't always need you to jump in and fix it. So we had to have those conversations, but being strong with support. I think that's what it's really about. Being strong with support.
And I think strength comes in to play knowing when to be vulnerable.
Right.
That's strength.
Right.
Is allowing yourself to be vulnerable.
Right. But if we keep the strength, if we keep the walls all built up all the time, no one can penetrate.
That's a sign of weakness to me.
Right. Right. And for some people, it's a trauma response.
That's fair too.
For some people, it's just a trauma response, and then it consistently, and then it consistently affects the relationship overall.
Yeah.
So when you're dating to marry, you have to say to yourself, how can I have a conversation with me first before I have a conversation with him? Because it's not all about him. Some of it is me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. This episode is about dating to marry. I keep going back to that because I see a lot of young men in the way that they're treating women that doesn't sit well with me, meaning, okay, they say that they really like them, or they feel as though they're always going to be there, and they may take advantage of that, and they're not, and the women, they're not committing to the women. So to that point, I feel as though some conversations need to be had with the men, especially when you're, in your late 20s, going into your 30s. They need to understand that most women that age are dating to marry. And I think we have a responsibility as men, right, to understand if you don't see yourself with that person, just to go your separate ways. So I want to ask from a male's perspective, and then also from the female's perspective, say, why would you stay in that relationship? Like, what's keeping you there? Maybe give them some words of wisdom as to why they would stay in that relationship and why they may reconsider. I would love to hear from the male's perspective when it comes to being in those relationships. Like, what are you doing? Like, do you agree that they should be staying in those relationships knowing that, this is not who they want to marry? And at what stage should they start be thinking of, okay, I'm dating to marry as well? Or do men never date to marry? I don't know. I don't even know what the question is. It's just, I see these young men out here and they're dating, or they say they're not dating, or they may be dating several women at the same time. And each of those women think that that's the only person that they're dating. You following me?
I follow.
And it's to the point where if you're of a certain age, like, when do you stop playing those games and start taking it serious, or letting that person go? You know what I mean? Having the courage to let them go. Because it's like at that point, you're taking advantage of the person. I don't know. So from a male's perspective, I would want to know, what is the magic bullet to get these young men to understand, stop wasting these women's time and commit?
I don't think there's a magic bullet or a magic age when you need to stop dating to marriage, look for marriage and so forth. But you gotta, one thing
So
is,
if you're 30 years old, Julius, and you're just dating.
No,
Like,
at that point,
at that point, you're like, you should be dating to marriage?
At that point, you should be looking for somebody to settle down with. But then you got to ask yourself, what do the person want in life? I would think most people want a family, some kids, and so forth. And at that point, you should be looking for somebody that can help you accomplish some things in life, and y'all start to build together. But what you got to realize is, on TV, or in the world, on the internet, they don't glorify that. They glorify guys sleeping with this chick sleeping with this guy so she can get this pocketbook and drive this car. It's all glorified on just messing around and no family. So in their minds, why do I need that? Where unfortunately, we're starting to live in a society now where there's less and less role models to show people that certain things are possible.
Yeah.
If you don't see any men who are married with their wives, living a good life, having fun, you never really say to yourself, I want that.
That is possible.
Like when we were younger, we had people we can say, oh, such and such, they've been married for this long, and you see them and you do that, but they don't have that. But I would think by the age of like 24, 25, you should be looking for somebody to start building a future with, because
And we're talking to the people that truly do want to marry at some point, because there's some people that just don't want to be married, and that's okay. And we're not saying that everyone, once you get to a certain age, you should get married. I do want to clarify that. But for those that are dating a woman and they know they're dating to marry, I think it's
that the woman
selfish.
is dating
They know that, because us women, we'll let you know that, hey, I'm feeling you. I would love to spend the rest of my life with you.
Right.
Sometimes we say it too soon. Or we act, you know what I mean? We just show our hand too soon sometimes. But if you're the man and you know that, one, I don't want to get married, right? Or I'm not ready to get married now, and you know that woman is dating to marry, I think the male has a responsibility, this is just me, has a responsibility to say, hey, I'm not there yet. So we have a decision to make.
Yeah.
No, and I fully agree. I figure if you're around 25 or so, at that point, you want to start taking the female for long test drives.
Long test drives?
Long test drives.
So we're cars now?
No,
You have two women here on this couch,
Well,
and
what
you're
a-
going to say
you-
test
He's
drive?
just making himself look so like a male chauvinist.
not-
and that's
I'm not-
not
it's
who
not
he
a-
is at
It's
all.
not a male chauvinist thing, but what I'm saying is, if I don't believe in meeting a female in January and marrying her in March. I don't believe that, because you need to get to know your
So
partner.
in the next episode, you're going to have me and Jesse on here talking about we dated in January, got engaged in April, and get married the next January.
And you know,
But
and
there's
there's
success stories
and there's
now.
success stories
That's
like
true.
that. But there's very few. Like I'm a person that believe, like, if I'm gonna marry you, me and you need to be together for a few years, so I can really make sure that you are who you are. Now I'm
So
saying,
why a few years though? That's crazy to me. Am I wrong? Like you're going to date someone for a few years?
yeah, too.
I
don't
think she's thinking, she's saying like in your 30s. So you're already kind of far along. I feel like at that point, you should kind of know who you are.
College, cool. We're going to date for
Right.
4 years.
Right.
That makes sense. No
Right.
one's thinking about marriage.
If I'm in my 30s and I meet a female, me and this female are gonna date for at least 3 years.
I think that's fair.
We're gonna date for at least 3 years
Yeah.
because.
We got to get a poll on this.
In those 3 years, I need to understand something. I need to understand your relationship with your family, your relationship with your daddy and your mama. I need to know what your credit score is.
That takes 3 years?
I gotta analyze you. I gotta
That's
bring
a
all the
click of
data.
a button.
No, because that's how you end up in divorce court. Like, I need 36 months. We're gonna do a lease here with the option to buy. We're gonna do 36 months.
At
Option
least
to buy.
with the option to buy is actually crazy.
And I'm
Who am I married to? Erica,
right.
I'm on the podcast.
He's a businessman.
I'm checking. Exactly. I'm checking you out. And at the end of those 3 years, now in that process, I'll give you a ring and say, okay, this is basically, I'm saying that right now we good. At the end of this 3 years, this is what we're gonna do. So I'm gonna make a commitment to you. But I meet so many couples, they get married, and they say things like, she don't even cook and clean. Well, bro, you've been together with her for. You should have known that she don't cook and clean. And if her apartment was dirty every time you went over there when y'all was dating, what makes you think your house gonna be clean when y'all married?
Yeah.
That's not gonna happen. So it's just like, I need some time to just sniff out all the potential problems and for us to address it, because it goes back to, you can't make somebody who they not.
Right.
If it's not in them, it's not in them. And sometimes you don't get to see that true person in the first year or so. You know, you don't get to see them in the second year. Third year, by now, y'all probably spending more time at each other's house, sleeping over at each other's house, really getting to understand who this person is. And maybe there are some things that you don't care for with the person. It's going to be the same. But are y'all mature enough to talk through them and work through them and start to build? The other thing that you need to do is this person heading in the same path that you heading in? I've seen people who get married and then they say the other person don't want to have kids. Like, why didn't y'all have that conversation before?
That's fair.
Right.
Like,
those tough conversations.
what kind of career path is she looking for versus what you looking for?
Right.
Is she looking for a high earner, or is she just happy with somebody who has a civil service job and okay with that? You know, so those are the kind of things that I just think it takes some time to work through, fully understand the person. And I'm not saying, you know, if you sure about this person and your gut is telling you you're good with them and you want to marry them in a year, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, go ahead if you're sure that this is the person. But I'm saying, don't make a rush decision. Marriage is not a joke. You need to make sure that you're absolutely sure about what you're doing. But at the same time, don't go around and play with females' emotions. If you know she's looking for a husband and she really wants to settle down, don't go around and get fake false dreams. That's not fair to her.
That's not.
You know, let's be honest and say, hey, you know, I really do like you. I really do want to have a future with you. I just want to take things a little bit slower, make sure that we are right for each other, get things in line. Maybe he needs some time to save up for the money. to get the ring. You know, she may be looking for that 3-carat ring. You know,
That's a whole other topic.
You know,
Right. Yeah.
but those are the things you need to determine before you marry or ask somebody to marry you, because you don't want a female who's expecting a guy who can buy her Gucci bags every other month, and you know he only make $35,000 a year. That's a marriage in disaster.
That's
right?
a huge expectation gap.
You got exactly. You got to make sure that y'all are on the same path in life. Cause right now y'all just doing surface stuff, going out to eat, going to the movies, watching TV together. Like, you got to have some deeper level conversations. You got to go deep sea diving to really understand what you're getting here. You know, and like I said, sometimes that take a little longer. But you know, if you know that she ain't the one, then see you later.
So what words of advice would you give the young women that are now at the point where they're dating to marry?
I think even before you get to the point where you're dating to marry, know who you are. Know your triggers. Know your traumas and how those traumas show up in your relationships. Because even when we think about trauma showing up in relationships, it's not just your relationship with a significant other. It's in your family.
Yeah.
It's in your friendships. So you've seen it. Whether you want to sit down and actually dissect it is something totally different. But it's not fair to enter into any relationship broken and not sure of who you are. Because to me, that's headed for disaster. Unless both of you are okay with doing the work. And then I think it could be successful. But I do agree with Julius, be honest. When you meet these gentlemen, I'm dating to marry. And most of the time, men are either gonna stay or flee. It's gonna be one or the other. So the people that stay, give it a chance. We all have boundaries, and you know what you're willing to tolerate. So you have to be, okay, these are my boundaries. This is what I'm willing to tolerate. But then you have to have a hard conversation with yourself. Is it unrealistic? Like the every other month Gucci bag type thing.
Right.
Are there unrealistic expectations that you have put into place? And if there are, you may find yourself hopping from person to person to person before you can have the hard conversation with yourself. Like, yeah, this is unrealistic. I have to scratch it. I see a lot of young women, they have like this laundry list.
Yes.
Of
150 qualities.
Correct. And then if one thing is off, they're done. Oh no, absolutely not. I want somebody 6'2" and he's 6 foot.
Really?
If those 2 inches gonna break it, that's real shallow. Right. So again, that to me goes back to that consistently being able to have that revolving door. The other thing too is surround yourself with people who are in relationships and in marriages that you can go to and you can have some conversation.
Yes.
I think that's so important. If I have a lot of married friends, and I make sure some of them are older than me and some of them are younger than me, so that I'm able to go and say, hey, your children are grown. How did you handle this, and this within the marriage? And I'm able to get some feedback. I'm not saying that everything that they say is the gospel, but at least I have someone that I can go to and have some insight.
They have life experiences.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I appreciate that too. So when you are talking about dating to marry, think about the relationships in your family, the women in your family that have had relationships that have lasted long times and they've been healthy, successful. Because sometimes people are married for a significant amount of time and it's still not a healthy marriage.
Right.
So you have to make sure you have those people in your corner so that you can call them and you can have some conversations. So you have someone to go to and talk to. I think that's important too.
Yeah, and I think we're living in an environment where social media, it actually is up here as far as, okay, this is how you should find a man. And that's how they get the 150, 300 qualities. And if they don't fit one of those, then you should walk away. Red flag, walk away.
Right.
Well, how about looking at the heart? Right. How about looking at what are their values?
Correct.
Right. How about looking at, okay, so how do they treat their mother?
Right.
That was one thing my mom always said to me. Hey, Erica, you need to see how they're treating their mom.
Correct.
Because if they're not treating the mom right, you best believe they're not going to treat you right.
Absolutely.
Because a mother and a son, you can't break that bond.
No.
I was like, okay, I got to remember that. Yes.
I think that is so key. And I think the same thing goes too with a young woman and her father.
Yeah.
You know, and I know I'm probably going to get a lot of backlash on this, but when you don't have a father in your life, that does bring about a level of trauma.
Yeah.
That does bring about some things that need to be discussed and need to be looked at within yourself, because that stuff will carry over into the relationship. Your father is supposed to be the very first man that you love,
right,
and you fall in love with. And if he's not there to do that, and he's not there to provide that, then what?
Yeah.
There's something there that's torn.
Yeah.
Right. We have uncles who come in and fill the gaps, but it's still not the dad.
Right.
Then how is that his responsibility to handle all of the baggage that I'm bringing, because the first man who was supposed to be there, support me, love me, and take care of me failed?
Right. And he's not your dad. Your partner in life that you choose is not your dad.
He's not.
Yeah.
All.
Wow.
Yeah.
This was good, y'all. This is a great segment of Keeping It Real Pillow Talk Edition.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. If you like this episode, please let us know. I'm curious to know what your thoughts are about this laundry list of items that women tend to have when it comes to picking a spouse. Is it unnecessary? I mean, there's some value to it. I don't know. What do you look at? Do you look at core values, or are you looking at their appearance? Are you more concerned about their appearance and what they look like, or what they can add value to you? So thank you for watching another episode. And a special thank you to the Coldwell Banker Real Estate Company and Audrey Wentling, allowing us to shoot at this beautiful property at 13 Blue Marlin Way. We really appreciate you. And if you're interested to see what it looks like, property tour coming soon. Until next time, we'll see ya.